What is going on, everyone? James with Urban Bass Layers. We are in the backyard today. I have a bunch of pieces of wood with some patterns already drawn on them, and today what we're going to be doing is I'm going to take this piece right here and I'm going to cut it and do a complete build. I haven't done a complete build on a video in quite a while, so we are going to do a complete build with this guy. Drill all the holes, pour the lead, put the lip on, paint it, epoxy coat, the whole deal. Put the line ties and all that stuff in, and show you how I build the line ties. I'll do the entire build. So here we go, guys. Urban Bass Layers. Let's get to this. Lines are all drawn out on this guy already. Let's get to cutting it out. Alright guys, so I got the basic shape cut out here, and if you'll notice when I was cutting this, I flipped both sides so I could get this completely flat and straight. The Ryobi saw here, this band saw, I've done everything I can to balance this and get it straight, but this thing is just so floppy and flimsy, and it moves around a lot, so it is what it is. It's not a really expensive bandsaw. It's just a little Ryobi bandsaw. It does the job for me. It does a pretty good job. The blade just doesn't sit. See how that is? I've tried everything to get that to sit right. It has a lot to do with how you hold the wood. You just gotta, I did flooring for a living, and I grew up framing houses and stuff like that with my dad and building stairs and decks, and I'm pretty good at cutting wood. You just gotta keep cutting. The more you cut and the more you do stuff, the more you learn and the better you get at cutting. Yeah, I just noticed that I got one more little cut to make on this guy right here. I gotta cut this little piece out. That's it, and then I will go to cutting out the actual top design, which I'll come back in and I'll draw all this and I'll show you how to do that. Alright everyone, so this is the bait that we are attempting to build today, or we are building today, and kind of looks like a 57 Chevy car, like the style of the body, I guess to say. It just kind of reminds me of that. You got the old fin on the back, pretty cool looking thing. So we are attempting to build the same thing. And what I did was I went and I took measurements on this, and I figured out where this cut needs to be made, and we're gonna make that cut real quick. Actually, no, I can't make that cut yet. I gotta go along the sides and I gotta make my chamfer lines. So what we're gonna do, so just take a pen, kind of figure out, well, this actually I need to cut this out too, so I need to figure that out. It's not completely straight. I made it a little bit curved, but I'm pretty good at this. I can see with my eyes. I've cut stuff long enough. But sometimes I don't even need to mark these out. I'm just taking that extra step to mark these out, I guess to say. So it's right on the lines. I'm going to cut this out real quick, and that will give me a chance to cut the chamfer lines. The chamfer lines are going to be like this all up around. I just take my finger and get it set in one spot and do the same all the way around the bait. But once we get down here, you can see I got to cut that off so I can get the chamfer line right on that. So we'll cut this real quick and move to the next step here. So we got that cut out. It's pretty close to even. The side needs to be taken out a little bit. I need to get that a little bit right there. Right, that is much better. And something else I'm going to do here that I started doing was cutting out this tail slots early in the bait build. If I do that, it's easier. If you cut this, you cut the joint and everything, and you try to cut that little piece, it's going to be hard. So I just go ahead and I cut these now, just to get them out of the way. Gotta make sure it's centered right. It's pretty close. Okay, so I went back and I marked a line so I know how far to cut into there, because I don't want to cut too much of that out. This part's kind of hard to film. Maybe you can see a little bit better. Close, pretty good. I'll come back. I guess I should shut that off so you can hear me. Pretty close. I can come back with a file. I got little files, and I'll come back and I'll file that down a little bit and make it a little bit smoother. But now, since I have that done, you can see here I can continue my chamfer lines. You don't have to be perfect. You just got to be there. As you're cutting and carving, you'll kind of see what needs to be taken off and what doesn't. You just got to use your eyes and kind of look and see what parts of this you need to take off. Try to do this quick. Now this guy, I cut this kind of weird on the sides. I take this line straight across here. Try to leave that lip on there, but then cut in and take out part of this right here and round it in. It's kind of a difficult part to do, but we can do it. We can do anything. Finish off those chamfer lines. I'll just show you real quick what I mean by these lines. See that line to that line? Now you're going to take your blade and you're just going to whittle this down. You got to be careful with wood, depending on what wood you use. A lot of times with the grain, it's just going to want to take a big old chunk out, so you got to kind of go slow. I don't dig too far in. I take little bits off at a time. That way I know basically how deep I'm getting. You want that blade to kind of touch line to line in the end of it all. This is how I make all my baits. And as you're going, you're doing this, you don't want to have a straight flat line like that. You're slowly curving it out and carving a rounded line. So now like this part, I haven't cut this yet. So what I'll do is I'll just take this blade and run right down that line on both sides. And when I come back to hit that line, I just come like this at a 45 and go right up along that. cut yourself like I almost did. And as you keep going, you'll start seeing results. You'll start getting some shape to it. And what I will do sometimes also is as I'm doing one side, I'll jump right to the other side and I'll make those same cuts and everything. That way, I'm doing it all at the same time and kind of getting it all the same shape on both sides. See, like right there, I started to cut into the wood too far and it was going to take a big chunk out of that. So you got to cut slow and you got to be very precise when you're doing this. This is just a chunk of 2x2 that I found in the backyard that I drew up on, and it's a nice piece of wood. Made a bunch of baits out of this stuff, and I know a lot of bait makers, they just go to like Home Depot and they'll get the same exact wood, and that's what they hand carve their baits with. It's basically, because I used to build decks with my dad as a kid, it's like picket wood. It's wood for like pickets on a deck. And man, I had the opportunity to have so much stuff when I was a younger lad, all free material on the job sites we worked on, but I didn't even know I'd ever get into something like this. So I just find what wood I can use and use it up. So I'm going to continue around this, cut all these chamfer lines, and then jump to the next thing. So, alright everyone, I got the sides kind of rounded off a little bit. I got that front kind of going the way I want it to. Still got the marks in the back. Sometimes what I'll do is I'll come back and I'll remark this out just to kind of keep the lines there so you don't lose your lines for your cuts. I'll cut that close to last thing is cut that out. So now the next step here is to smooth a lot of this out, and sometimes I'll use sandpaper and hand sand them, and sometimes I will just go with the old Dremel, and I just got a little, probably change that out, put a new one on. And, yeah, I think I'm going to change that out and put a new one on so I can sand this properly. We'll get to sanding this guy after I change this guy out. This part's kind of boring and annoying, kind of loud, so I'm just going to show you a little bit and just get this thing in like a medium speed. That is that on that cut. I do have a jig in my bait room that I will sometimes use a handsaw to cut the joints. This joint is not quite a 45, so I just eyeball this type of joint when I make these. They're all pretty much just about the same. So now that I've got that done, the next step here is to mark out where these guys are going to go, where my line ties are going to go, and where I'm going to pour holes in the bottom for pour the holes in the bottom to put the lead in. Now, if I can remember correctly, I did not put lead in the back of this one. I only put lead on the front of this bait. So, as we do with all of my baits, mark them all just about the same spot. Nothing fancy here, just so I'm going to do a bigger hole and a smaller hole, and then the line ties are going to end up over here, but I have to get an exact measurement on that to get the line ties there. Now what I'm going to do is I take, it's a like glass scriber, or a scriber for poking things and doing all kinds of stuff. I'll take this guy right on those marks. I'll just poke a little hole there. That way when I come back with the drill, make sure it's dead center on there. When I come back with the drill to drill these holes out, the tip of the drill has something to sit in perfectly, and I can drill these guys out. So let me get to that. Alright, so I got these old bits that are from my grandpa from a long time ago, and these things work perfect for bait building. So I already got that little hole poked there. The tip of that bit just sits right there perfectly. You kind of give it a look on top, make sure that I'm kind of squared up, and the best thing to do is plug it in. So now that you have your tool plugged in, let's go. Funny little true story, when I was in 7th grade, junior high school, I was in woodshop class, and we had a teacher that was showing us how to use the bandsaw, and he turned and was talking to us. It did something, and he cut his finger hella bad and started bleeding all over the place when he was showing us how to use the bandsaw. So don't be that guy. Take your time, make sure that you unplug your tools when you're switching stuff around, and you don't want to end up messing yourself up. Get this guy switched. My check key there, I got tightened. Oh, that wasn't very good. Yep. So now that we got that first hole done, come right back next to it. I always drill the holes the same depth right to the top of these guys, so almost every bait will have the same amount of lead poured into it. I'm new at this stuff, so learning how to do all this. Eventually I'm going to be weighing every single one of these baits or something. So the next step here would be to mark out where these hook hangers go. And I know pretty much where they go from marking them out last time. They're going to come straight up off of this point. If that makes any sense. Straight up off the point, but over to the side just a little bit. So we will do that, get those holes drilled. Pretty good marking out when you go right into the same exact hole on the other side. Here we have that. Next step is to get this hole going on my connector. I mark that just about dead center. Come back and find where it matches. I draw a little line to that. I find right to where it matches. Eyeball it, mark a little spot there. Same thing with this guy. Poke me a hole there so my drill bit will go in there. This guy also. Next thing to do is to make some line ties. I have a bunch made already, but I'm going to make some specifically just for this bait for this video. Alright, so let's move on to that next step. Alright, so I got my wire bender out here, and I got some wire. This is like spinnerbait wire, stainless steel, and stuff's pretty thick. I like making my own line ties out of this stuff. It's a lot lighter than actually using the eyelets that you can buy. So let's get to making a couple eye holes for this bait and just mark them out all about the same size. snip and clip. I already got the measurement, so I just take that one and use it as my jig basically. We need 2 for the sides, and we need a double for the middle. So 4 of these guys out. I'll show you how I do this. Just take this guy, try to get it right about the center. Spin that around. Spin that guy up. Spin that guy up. And I end up with one of these. What you do with this guy, wire bender, you just stick it right in here, right in the little slot where it goes. Just give her a twist. And you'll end up with one of these. Come back and I clip off the little ends. Now a lot of people, they'll use a drill and stick the end of this in a drill and put this over something and use the drill to spin it. I just don't have that type of drill. I have an old school drill and I have a little DeWalt drill for doing my screws and stuff, but it's just not, the one drill I have is too powerful. It doesn't have adjustments, so I just build these guys this way. There you have it. Quick little line tie. I'm going to make a bunch of these. I'll make 2 this size, but I got to make sure, because of the way, where'd my block go? The way this is, if you see that, it's going to go too far through there and these guys are going to hit inside. So I got to make these just long enough to where they're going to barely touch inside. I mean, I could drill these holes out a little bit to an angle, but they're still going to hit somewhere inside there, and you don't really need long line ties. You can use shorter ones than that and they will still hold. I've put ones in that were about that short, and I tried to take them out of a bait before and you could not get them out. I had to clip them off and that really sucked. Okay, so I'll show you how to do a double. I'm going to make this the double because that one's a little long for the cross. That one's a little bit long for the cross line ties. Bend that guy up a little bit. Just a little bit. Look at that. Now what we do with this guy, we stick it on here. Those are going to be a little bit long for what I'm doing here, so I'm going to clip just a bit off these. Clip just a little bit off of those. That way the end product isn't going to be really long because I'm going to need it short. That end needs to be short so it doesn't stick too far out of this. The last one I built, it did stick out and I just clipped it off. So I got to make sure that it's long enough to hold this piece on, but it's not going to be too much. It looks just about good. Then I'll clip those ends off, make a couple more of these, and get this bait going.